So
okay, this is John from All Points TV, and today we're doing our duty here as the of All Points TV, and we're in the city of Flint, and upcoming in November is a mayoral election, and we have, well, how many candidates now? 18, 19?
I think there's 17.
17. Okay, I guess a couple did drop out. But anyway, amongst them we have right now with us is mayoral candidate Tony Palladeno. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, what's happening, John?
And with him is Bruce Steirs. Anyway, Tony, if you guys are aware, he's been an activist in the area for several years. I came in contact a couple of years ago myself, and in connection with something he wanted to bring attention to. And Tony's like, he is Mr. Flint, as Bruce said. He's Mr. Flint. He's been on the ground for years. He's been involved. He worked for the Flint Journal back when it was still the Real Flint Journal, actual paper. And so he knew the current events and the events of that time. And let's face it, the past reflects and creates the future. So, and which we're in now. So anyway, Tony's very knowledgeable, and he's been very much on the forefront of the water crisis. He's been a very vocal, critic of what's going on there, and wants to change and accelerate the correction of this water situation. And Bruce Steirs has actually been involved in the building trades for over 30-some years, correct, Bruce?
Yes.
So he's got the practical experience, and that's the type of we need in this, this kind of, with the situation we're looking at in Flint is an aging infrastructure with falling apart. And anyway, we're going to go on from there. And but Tony, we'll start from where you've been a lifelong resident of Flint.
Yeah, east side of Flint my whole life, Kersley Park.
And the east side has seen dramatic changes, not for the best, in the past 20 years, I'd say.
Yeah, there hasn't been nothing dropped up in here. So.
Now, Bruce, where are you from? You're from the Flint area, obviously, or?
I came to Flint in 1978. Lived over on the east side of Flint. Jane, Mabel, Bell. I was one of the tenants that were over there, from the 78 years and up through about 98. I think in 1999 I moved from Flint and to the Vienna Township area, and now I'm back in the area, and I'm very much happy to be involved with what Mr. Palladeno is attempting to put forward here, which is a progressive, positive movement.
Now, Tony, it's like you are. There's so many things I think I have an awareness because I bring people to do shows and they talk about stuff. I merely listen, but I think I'm getting a good feel for things. And you're bringing up angles I haven't seen covered yet. So, we'll go into that. Bruce is like, you were involved in the building trades and and that's like, let's face it, people overlook that. But when you talk about a city that one time had the glory we did, we had the available funds. Now we don't. Basically, what I always tell people, we always had the same situation, corruption and mishandling of funds. But back then, it was basically like the analogy I would draw is like a fire hydrant being turned on with the water coming in. No pun intended on the water crisis, but the money was coming in like hand over fist, and you could cover up stuff, and they can make stupid decisions, and it wasn't as transparent or as apparent.
Well, you had 300,000 people here then.
Right now we got what?
Well, they say we're down to 100, but I think we're more like 70.
Yeah, I would say 70 or 80. That's my estimation, about 80,000. Now, you're a different mayoral candidate because you are not like the polished business guy. You're a father. You work for the Flint Journal. You've also probably, like the rest of us, done odd jobs here growing up. Until you got to a better position. You got more of a feel for being a real person than a lot of the other candidates.
Down the streets, from shoveling sidewalks to pushing ice cream carts to throwing that newspaper. Yeah. And by the way, I got a grandson on the way. I want to give props to him. Hopefully he's going to be all right because he's been in this water too.
Well, hopefully avoid it as best as possible. After they're
aware of everything that's going on. They're doing the bottled water and everything, but the bathing situation. We still haven't taken no clean showers in 3.5 years.
Yeah, see, it's like, I'm so used to it. But I'm so glad that I don't have children growing up. We have I don't even know how many public schools in Flint are still open.
Can I break in on that?
Sure.
Sure. I'm so used to it. That's what's coming down the pipeline now from the public, who has been waiting forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And the waiting is over.
Yep.
The forever is over. The new beginning is on its way. It has to have support. The support is the residents. The residents are the most important reason Tony and I are here today. The residents are the most important reason the city has in its assets. We talk buildings and we talk roads and we talk infrastructure, but really the basic infrastructure that needs the help the most are the residents. They were the most impacted by the disaster. They had no voice say in the matter. They had no vote in the say of switching from the Detroit Lake Huron water source to the contaminated Flint River
Well, that's
source.
no matter who made that choice, whether it was KWA, the council, or Detroit. The residents never got a voice. Even when the EMs come in and took over this dang streetlight tax, what is that? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's going to the master plan. That's all that is. It's a fund for the master plan. It's destroyed me. My properties, I've tried to maintain them, and it's hard now. My wife's struggling. Anyways, long story short, I am, and we are, the people that are with me in the committee and all the things that we're getting ready to do, we will start with the residents first. I've been screaming this for 20 years. I've been in every neighborhood, and I'm not saying I apologize. We've been in every neighborhood. And it's been a while. Some of us got shut down. Most of my programs are being run by other people and making money off it. None of it's coming back into the residents' homes. I'm looking at people that are literally crying to me, Tony, where have you been? What's going on? I'm going to tell you what happened. I got pushed out because I spoke up, and it haunts me. I can go up north and sit on a boat and think of Mrs. Polito or Mrs. Malice or my own mother-in-law, and I can't even fish. I'm crying, sitting there like I failed everybody. And I've spoken up, and I've yelled, and I'm like, where are these people from Flint? And my finger's been pointed in every direction. And well, it finally turned to me and said, you know what, if you're not going to be listened to, then become someone that will be listened to. And that job as mayor, I didn't expect that to come, and I'm going to give props to Art Woodson. Go ahead, Art. You did a good thing, I think. I think there was some other things going on, but right now it's open for everybody and anyone. I'm going for the residents first. I want the police to know that I'm going to let you guys make a decision about which way you want to go. There's going to be some house cleaning, and I think we're going to let you do that from within inside. I can't tell them how to run their job, just like they can't tell me how to shut up.
Now, you alluded to the stuff, the activities and the organization you were part of, or you actually spearheaded, that now are run by other people. Why don't we go into that a little bit? Because to show your community involvement, you I forget the title of the organization, but
we started at Clean. It was Kersler Park, Longway, East Side area neighborhood. It started around the stairs by my house. Now, mind you, I grew up there. George Lajabell, when I was a kid, built them stairs, and he pulled the little fat guy aside and said, I'm going to take him under my wings. There was a mentor, didn't know what it was at the time, Earl Taylor, a couple of guys that ran the park. They made sure that I was picking up trash and taking care of things. I now get welled up thinking, yep, way to go, guys. That's what's missing. We're missing a lot of the mentorship, the old guys, the young guys that should be sitting under their wings. I'm getting a little carried away. Clean started. Kersler Park, Longway, East Side area neighborhood took the initiative to take over our park again because they said it can't be done. Well, we blew it out of the water. We've got dumpsters. We had donations from Home Depot and
Community support.
oh my goodness, man! The women, the elderly women that run this city, that have been neglected and beat down.
The ones that used to say, go out there and get a switch, and you better not make it a little one when you come back in here, Buster.
Right.
Those ladies used to watch out for the little kids down in the neighborhood because they knew who their mother was.
I was on the other program, and he says, well, how can they do it now? I said, shoot, it's even better now. They got a technology. They can type Mrs. Johnson down the street.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, you got cameras. You can actually get pictures of them in action.
Yeah.
I mean, click. Oh, here. No, they said he didn't do it here. There's proof.
Oh, yeah.
But now, Ron would say, people are saying, okay, he's got this background, and Tony.
Let me just touch one more thing I didn't get. As I started the clean program, it was for our neighborhood. And I had Genevieve Downey, whose name is on that pavilion, God rest her soul, and we just laid Helen Chasik to rest, who, like I've said before, put a boot in the butt. We raised a flag, and it was a good thing. But the other thing was the Citizens Nuisance Task Force that I was asked to come on board with a lot of these ideals. It took from my clean organization, and I'm kind of glad to a certain extent, but it didn't end very well for me because I started speaking about which directions we should be going and was told that's not my position. Well, I stepped back and stepped down. Great people involved, and there was some sneakiness in there too. But with that said, being with Citizens Nuisance Task Force, me and my wife was actually in every neighborhood in this city. We had 52 neighborhood organizations that we had developed a friendship with, more or less. They came to the Citizens Nuisance Task Force, and I want to thank Dale Scanlon and the rest of Vicky. They all know that what we had at the time we didn't realize was going to be as big as it is. We did some great things, and it motivated a lot of people. First and foremost, it brought a lot of us together, wouldn't even talk to each other. In fact, was told don't cross the river while we're already over it.
You made the goal.
Right.
You made the goal. You made it happen.
We made it happen.
That's what I'm saying. You guys made it happen.
And here's where we're at today. It is now 20 years later. I can hardly get into my park without a fight. They've taken over ball fields and all that, and everybody says, oh, it's such a beautiful thing. We'll try and walk down on it now. You might as well just say goodbye, Kersley Park. Now, I'm not saying it's all a bad thing, but open them gates so we can use them. That pavilion was supposed to have a kitchenette down there, a place where we could sit and eat. Every time I went to use it, I was chased out onto a picnic table. I've been called a thief. And as it got worse and worse, I backed out because I knew I was not going to, or we were not going to advance any further in there. Money had dropped from some foundation, Mott, into a nice golden pocket of an actress that took care of things her way. I'm not saying everything she did was wrong, but she didn't do everything right. First of all, she abandoned the residents that were around that park, around the east side, around the north side, because remember, when we did an event, everybody was down in there. And I hold this as a dagger in my chest because that unfinished business, who knows where we what we would have accomplished, and why was it stopped? Because of the funding, because of the grants, or whatever. I didn't want to succumb to let me work for you while we do something that came from our hearts. So
I see that as a kind of a pattern here in the city of Flint. Is like somebody spearheads a program, but for some reason these professional spokespeople, they look on camera, maybe they live in the right, they got the right zip code.
They're hired actresses. Yeah. That's it.
And it's like and they get like everybody say, well, listen to what they're saying. Well, it's like somebody else said that first. They jumped on that, and now they commandeered it. And I think, okay, so maybe there's some benefit, like you said, the grant money coming forward and stuff like that. But I would say I don't see how anybody could do that and not acknowledge somebody else who actually started the ball rolling. Well, and they don't seem to do that.
Well, it's like a push in the face. Look where I'm at. I don't know where Mr. Palladeno is, but we'll give you some bad stuff. He's still, man, give me a break. You know how you got where you're at. Not only that, you're making more in a year than I did in 2-3 years at the Journal to put some plays on and run around. And there were some things said. And anyways, I'm not going to elaborate on that. That'll come later. What I want to talk about is this city. I want to talk about the people that have not been talked to, but talked at. I want to talk about the people that you don't talk to anymore. When you come to a council meeting, it's such a fiasco. You sit there, you might as well bring popcorn because you're going to be there 5 hours listening to this Robert's Rules or whatever. And I told the mayor at one time, I said, ma'am, I said, what you need to do is you need to come in front of the people. Don't let the people come in front of you. Let us come to you. It just never happened. A lot of different things haven't happened. I'm not here to slam Karen Weaver.
Not here to support her. I'm not. I'll be honest about it. I'm not here to support her.
I'm not here to support her either. I was using the word slam as a metaphor.
And you were being very generous, and I appreciate that. But, and I'm sure she does too.
What I always think is strange here is like I'm a person. Well, let's get this problem, this bushfire put out first, then move on to something else. And then when you got everything pretty much handled, then you do the extraneous stuff. Here, they get fascinated by the beautification projects, but they don't address they want to put a pretty building up, but they don't realize that they're not even talking about put up a foundation. I'm using this as an analogy. Mm-hmm. They do that. I mean, they're sort of like, look we planted flowers. Yeah, but look at the water crisis. I mean, downtown Flint, they're talking about that money they're spending to create the beautiful riverfront park or something like that. until the water's levels addressed, all monies and all into energy should be focused on that.
Right.
And you put out that fire first. But I mean, you know, I don't understand the mindset of people. They're just, and you, Mr. Steirs there. I mean, you're from the pragmatical part of the world. I mean, you know, building trades. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you're the type of people everybody goes to.
Can I give you just a couple of some basic backgrounds on the cities and the city and its needs when it comes to the water? The city's water plant definitely does need everything that everybody has said in the renovations. Problem with what they've said is that we've spent about $54 million, but it apparently wasn't in the right direction, and it wasn't. So $54 million, you can't quibble over the numbers. It's going to take at least $75 million to retrofit this plant. The plant itself is a capacity of 35 million gallons a day. The city of Flint uses approximately 11 million gallons a day, less what it loses through the failing infrastructure. Now, prior to the switch to the Flint River, the city has a 600-mile infrastructure plumbing system below it. And that was set up for the envisioned 300,000 population back in about 1965, I think. It probably started, you know, they started arguing and bickering over the Huron line way back in the early 60s, and Flint actually purchased land, they purchased property, things were done, but it all got shut down, and they decided that they would go to Detroit for the source. Having that been said, the city of Flint, with the infrastructure in its state of affairs after the river switch, the replacement lines and the FAST program that the mayor is on does concentrate on the galvanized and lead service lines going to the homes. But you have to, you know, bear in mind the age of the real estate in the city of Flint. We're talking homes from 1930s to 1978, and we're talking homes that had lead paint, they had lead, they had asbestos, they had, you know, everything else that everybody else in the nation has. Okay, so none of those things were any different in the city of Flint, except for that the cases of study that were being kind of like overlooked, such as education and the effects of lead poisoning and the criminal activity of lead poisoning and the medical mental instabilities of lead poisoning. Well, all of those characteristics stood out like a beacon, but only to the people that were like kind of like engineers and people that were scientifically involved in trying to bring an awareness to it. I want to bring up a name, Bob Stewart. I think that Bob Stewart is an excellent character to bring up in this instance because he's a registered chemist, and one of the things that amazingly he told Richard Baird was when they put the new equipment in the water plant over there, he had to tell them that the new equipment that they put in was put in on the wrong side of the plant. And so it was kind of like redundancy, but they pushed the button anyway. The other thing is that the people of the city of Flint, okay, they had no physical presence to be able to say yes, no, this is what we want, this is what we don't.
I don't think it would have mattered anyways.
It probably wouldn't have mattered because the plan was already cast.
Right.
So we can't go back and undo yesterday. Okay, so by rehashing over everything of it, and certainly there are people that are going to be held accountable for it, but certainly the people that are most lacking in response are still the residents. 3 years.
Bruce, not to cut you off, but you went from that 600 miles of pipeline. Why don't you drop that 300, where you were going with that?
Okay.
I think you were going back
yes,
to the 300.
I was. On the needs of the city. Okay, here it goes. 600 miles for 38 million gallons a day. Okay, you're only using 11. So that means that in 600 miles of pipe, you'll have water that lays out there for 2.5 weeks before it moves to your house. So bacteria without chlorination and without circulation is certainly prominent, and it is the main concerning issue. The filters that are here for lead filters and the concentration on lead and the narrative of lead is under control. It's under the state limits now, so now you use the filters, it's under the state limits.
Why are we making our own filters?
Okay, so in the lead, first of all, for the lead filters, okay, well, let's talk about the bacteria that are in the sediments that are remaining. Because what happened in the river switch, in that 600 miles of pipe, 100 years of coatings, come washing ashore into every home, every wash machine, dishwasher, everybody in the city of Flint that was consuming the water drank that poison. And when they called into the city to raise what would be due diligence, as any good citizen would do, hey, something's matter with the water here. I think something's really matter with the water. And they were told, go home, there's nothing wrong with the water, it's under control.
Boil it.
Boil it. Okay, and then Dane Walling, mayor, said, look, I don't know why everybody's out buying water. There's nothing wrong with this water. So what pushes that narrative from the municipals to the elected to the people? Well, the entrusting people got screwed. To the point to people died. And so the inference here is this, that 600 miles can be and will be reduced about 300 miles.
And there's your city.
Okay, and that's going to restructure the main lines of the city. Now we have houses, and going in line with Dale Gildy's Shrinking Cities plan, I'm sure there's going to be neighborhoods that are going to go to total grasslands, and maybe they should. But at the same time, you better have relocation programs for these people.
Not one.
At the same, progress of your population going from 200,000 to 100,000 down to 97,000. And Lord knows after all this is done, Flint might come out ahead about 67,000 people. Well, 67,000 people and 97,000 people cannot support the water system that's there or the bills that takes to run that system. And the city of Flint needs to and will, under this man's administration, address that program so we can get safe water into the homes. We can have a reliability factor of 99.9%. And I disagree, totally disagree, with the state's assumption that the people in the city of Flint are too goddamn illiterate to run a water plant. Excuse me for swearing. They're too illiterate to run a water plant.
Well, first of all, you got to have the right people in that water plant, which at one time I'm sure there was.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've met people who worked for the water plant in the past. Retirees that are very intelligent people.
I challenge the universities to show what programs they have for wastewater and water treatment program teaching classes that they offer that would vindicate this program and give us an army of people and a staff of people that we need, instead of sitting there on the sidelines and you're getting a lot of money. Okay, so if you're going to get a lot of money, I say fine, but put it to good use. And the residents here are the ones that need the help.
I'm very impressed by what you laid out. I mean, Tony, I got to admit, I mean, you and I talked about stuff before, but I think you've really put down, along with Bruce here, you got a lot of information that people probably simply have overlooked. I know I'm re-examining.
Well, I'm just a resident, man. I mean, what more do you want from me? If I speak up, you don't hear me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it's like, and that's the reason why all points exist. And I'm
glad you're here. I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, but we try to get people in. I mean, I've had people tell me, I've told them somebody's going to be coming in, not you guys, okay, but I said somebody's coming in to discuss what they think about this, and they realize not that person. But when you sit back, like, and listen to people, they got an angle that's not because they don't wear a suit, they don't walk into an office with a briefcase, they're dismissed. And that's there's this arrogance that exists.
If you want to know the truth, back when the city of Flint started, this is how they looked.
Right.
I mean, we were a lumbering beaver count, not that I am not that. I love the wilderness, and nothing's wilder than Flint now.
Let's face it. I mean, I see more wildlife here. I mean, literal wildlife. I mean animals. That's what I mean. Yeah. I mean, probably more than they do in the country area.
Well, that's because there's nobody taking care of them like they used to. And if you get caught eating them, you're a savage.
But anyway, I think you really.
We haven't even touched on the housing side.
You haven't. There's so much stuff, and you've mentioned the shrinking city scenario. We've been kind of big on the tiny housing side of it too, and there's houses sitting that
that Bruce has found, well, we won't elaborate too much.
We'll give you more time to come back, because we just wanted to introduce you to people who, as you're a mayoral candidate, and also if you are a mayoral candidate or know a mayoral candidate, we'll give you equal time as well.
That's good. That's fair.
That's fair. And another thing is, I like to see more people come in and discuss why they think they would be a better mayoral candidate. But what I think is really, part of me says when I see so many people in it, it feels like, wow, the situation is really bad. But when you also can see that as an advantage. You got so many people with a wide variety of life experience and diversity in their thoughts. That may be a good thing. Another thing is, I like to encourage people who don't, if they run, they don't get elected, not just to go and
dig in. You still got a shovel in your hand, use it. I just want you to know, everybody's like, what the hell is Tony running for? He can't be a mayor. He don't even have a suit. Yeah, I got one suit. It ain't about that. And the look is important. I understand that. But what I'm saying to you is the residents have been denied. I'm not a mayor. Understand what I am. I am a guy that's been fighting in these streets for a long time with a lot of great people that are getting denied. But what I do know is the jobs that are not being done through this administration by people that should not be there in the first place. How do you hire someone and then hire someone to train that someone to do the job that they messed up anyways? We're not going to stand for that. I'm not going to stand for it. I know what's going on in this city, and some of it's really bad. There's a lot of good. I'm not going to BS you. I'm not going to bullshit you. The truth of the matter is, I will be your mayor. I will be in city council, maybe not every day. I'm going to give props to Dane Walling. I remember going to council and that guy sitting there just taking a beating. High fives for that. You let us wear. But what I'm saying is this. I may be sitting at that council, but when I call my administrator or anybody else, waterworks, whatever, you better have some answers. And it ain't going to be no, we're done with that. We're done pussyfooting around.
So I definitely could see that Mayor Tony Palladino would probably have, I think he'd have the ear and probably the loyalty of the working class people. I think in Tennessee, in this town, the people who become mayors usually have the elites, the allegiance, and they shut out everybody. They mock people when you go see them. I mean, I've seen that before in other mayors, and I've been around all my life in this town, and every time you try to talk to them, they give you the same pat answers. Mm-hmm. They pat you on the shoulder, they shake your hand.
Yeah, let me kiss your baby, I'll see you tomorrow. I understand.
Yeah, and that's what we see.
But you know what? If we went on looks alone.
Can I mention something about the city of Flint here?
Sure.
Okay. The one thing about the people that are running the city of Flint, a lot of them have never been boots on the ground themselves, shovel in the hand project, to even have a first clue of what the mechanical aspects take. You have a resilience of talent in this town through engineering, construction, and so forth. I worked 119 feet under the city of Flint in tunnels where we had cave-ins and we had all kinds of things putting in the water system that everybody enjoys. We did that in 1970, 78 and 79. Angelo DePonio, Greenfield Construction, multi-million-dollar project. You probably remember all the shafts that were sunk down. Well, I was one of them guys down in that bottom tunnel mucking out the water so we could get those lines put in. And so I was putting in 16 hours a shift and working down and I was knowing that we were doing a good job for what we had, and we were earning every damn dollar that we earned working 119 feet under the ground and getting buried sometimes underneath that ground. But I'm here to live to tell about it, and tearing down Fisher Body with Beaver Wrecking and C.J. Rogers. Most tearful thing I ever saw was the people walking out of that plant the day that they said that they were going to shut it down, and it was done. It was over. They piled bricks in the pile and told people, here, you can buy the bricks because we're going to sell the bricks. Well, I took bricks home, and I'll admit it, I gave them away because I figured those.
You're good, man.
Yeah. No, it's I
you see that though?
Yeah, what's with this from? It's like, when you see a part, when I had friends tell me that's like they were critical of Flint. They're sitting there talking about how bad Flint was and making jokes about it, and they just don't understand. It's like
we build multi-million-dollar water treatment facilities. We build water, we build hospitals, we build roads in the construction trades industry.
We bring the Army Corps of Engineers in right now.
That's where our salvation is going to come into. I want to just briefly touch upon this. A $24,648 a year income for a family of 3 in the city of Flint. 42% of the city lives below the poverty level of a national average. We've got 48% of that is just absolutely devastated in the real estate. And we have a prison system that pays $34,000 a year per prisoner in the state of Michigan. And so we see that as a conflict, because if a person at $24,000 a year, 3 kids, is trying to make it, and they're told, well, you know, this is a good job, you've been trained through these programs that we put forward, and $24,000 a year, well, I'm sorry, but you do qualify for food stamps, and you do qualify for Medicaid, and you do qualify for all these programs, and, you know,
the have-nots of that.
Okay, and then here's the other end of it. You've got business owners in the likes of some of the commercial grocery stores that tell people, well, we're going to cut your wages, but don't worry, you'll get an increase in your food stamps, because they knew that they were already on food stamps because they're paying them substandard wages. All right, so let's take 35 years. Let's take 60 years of this nonsense being fed up to the people. And so now you have a criminal element of people that are trying to make that $34,000 mark by, well, I'm sorry, I've got to do some things that are going to sell drugs. I'm going to steal hubcaps. I'm going to steal manhole covers out of the street. I'm going to steal everything that's out of the plumbing. And of course they're going to do that. Of course they are. There is no vehicle other than programs. I'm sorry, go down to the ADC office, sit down there for about 25 days, and it's not a workable model program for the city any longer. And this is what we tried to touch upon last night with
the grant funding.
Funding and foundations.
A grant's not a job.
The grants are fine, but we were told last night, unless you're a nonprofit, you're not really eligible for any of this money. Well, I'm sorry about that, but that means that nonprofits, and as I brought it up to the gentleman last night that's running the show, that the nonprofits seem to be the stroke of the genius of business coming into Flint. It is the only business that's coming into Flint, other than we've got the university.
It's the only business that's always been in Flint that's just been inflated.
So are we then developing our corporation attitude into a 501c nonprofit industry? And this is how we're going to, again, I asked the gentleman, where do you see your agency in 30 years? And he laughed at me and he says, I'm only 35, 36 years old. He says, I see it as being super, super, super. Well, I take that back to a statement that was made about being here for 96 years and going to be here for 96 years more. I thought to myself, well, I'm looking around at 96 years and I'm thinking, my Lord, what does he mean? Okay, what does that mean? Because this is a terrible situation that we're in, and we don't have a voice unless we come up and we protest. The only way you're heard is if you get in front of somebody and you bring a group of people and you jump up and down, and then what happens?
You get slammed down.
Okay, this man gets invited, we all get invited to go to a church for a gathering orchestrated by the mayor, the House of Prayer.
Town hall.
I was there. It was a town hall meeting, and I was there that evening, and I was appalled at the police officers in retaliation to this man's wife. She must weigh 78 pounds dripping wet at about 4'3", and 4 of the gorillas slamming her around because she was walking out of the meeting, and as she was walking out of the meeting, she said, "This is bullshit." Okay, I've said this is bullshit a lot of times, but I've never been thrown around up against the cabinet. I've never been
let me
beat
mention,
up by
though,
police.
before that even happened, they tried to shove us out that back door. She says, no, I'm handicapped. I'm parked out front. And as I'm walking in front of her, or behind her anyways, long story short, that was a setup. That was a setup. We were not there to protest.
I was appalled, and the rest of the country was appalled. Even Richard Baird said that he was appalled. But, you know, Richard Baird sat there, and I hate to bring up the name because I don't have all bad things to say about Richard Baird. He's trying to do a good thing for his friend, the governor, I understand. But when it comes to the city and that, having somebody from Chicago come in and tell you that you need a 30-year contract rammed up your butt, and then go back home and sit and doesn't have to pay a nickel on it. I take a little issue with that with the city of Flint. No, we'll do it in 5-year increments, and Detroit will like it, and they'll have to like it, because that's just the way it's going to be.
We're not going to give you 30 years, Detroit, and if you think we are, you're nuts. And we're also looking at...
You're looking at a team right here. You're looking at a movement.
You're just seeing 2 of us. There's more.
There's
people coming at me saying, where the hell have you been?
We're going to energize and try to empower you to bring the belief in yourself back to a reality. Because you've been told for so long, you're ignorant, you're stupid, you can't do it, you need this to do that, to do this. You need to believe in yourself, and you need leadership, and that's what this city's been lacking. 60 years of same old, same old, same old, and 30 years of programs that haven't lifted 1 ounce of that 42% out of poverty.
We're going to take that $24,000 that you're getting right now, if you're lucky enough to get that, and we're going to make it $34,000. We're going to start our own businesses that the residents of Flint are going to run. The police department are going to run their business. They're going to all be held accountable. We're going to bring businesses in. You've heard all this, but look it. I haven't seen very many people up on them garbage trucks lately. Oh, you mean the ones that we gave away? We're fighting a garbage contract. We give away $10 million worth of trucks. And I'm going to quote Josh Freeman when I asked him, I said, Josh, what's the deal with the trucks? Well, Tony, they're 10 years old. Shit, the blue ones were 60 years old. And here's the other thing. I'm tired of us not having our own city workers. You've eliminated jobs that should have never been done. You will have your forestry department. You will have your parks department. And I don't mean Mott, Kettering, U of M, MSU. I'm talking about the people that live on these streets that are not afraid to pick up a shovel. But listen to me, folks. When I come and knocking on that door and you're talking bullshit, you're gone. I'm going to put people in place that's going to do that job and do it well. Now, I don't mind if you go out partying and doing whatever, but if you come to work, you're going to work. We're going to play together. We're going to talk over that fence again. I want our garbage trucks. I want our parks. I want our forestry. I want Miss Johnson handing you an apple pie over the fence while you're taking care of some gardening work one-on-one with each other. You are Flint. You are residents. You are powerful. You have been denied. This shit's going to stop. I'm going to bring you guys together as a force that they've never seen. We are not fighting Mott. We're going to join up and see what you really got. You talk about grants? I don't work for grants. I want my people to have jobs. They say, oh, we took jobs. I'll tell you another thing. You will stop giving away our city assets. Our tab, you are gone. You understand me?
We are going to bring financial stability back to the city, so there is going to be a big eraser on the emergency manager's clause for the city of Flint, because there are certain rules that engage in process of the emergency managers where they will not be necessarily to be here any longer.
Well, let's not forget they were called in here by a certain group of people that took our assets.
Remember that long after Mr. Snyder, which soon will, I'm guessing in about another short amount of time, be leaving his office, the RTAB is scheduled to be here probably another 2 years after he's gone. So we don't have a whole lot of time to argue and quibble about whether or not RTAB is doing a good job. Right. Certainly in the times that the city of Bank is bankrupt. Yep. Okay, and so 30 years, okay, that was a buildup of 30 years. So anybody that talks about 30 years experience better be talking about the fact that the city's now bankrupt. There's $68 million that's still unaccounted for from the water and city.
$68 million.
That's going to stop. We can't retrieve that $68 million, but we can roll back the water rates that are coming into right now. We can get the city's water back under control. We will get the city's water back under control. We can't do it. We can't do it because
two people signed that in. Dane Wallen increased it by 20%. The EM came in and made it a whole 38%. We've tried to fight it in court, and they're denying it. Come on, they can sit there right now and roll that back and say, yep. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to say this. Karen Weaver, I told you this before. Had you not paid your water bill, you would have led this city out of this destructive, whatever it is. I'm not even going to use a religion fact, because here's where I'm at. Had you not paid your water bill, we would have followed you to the end of Detroit and back. You blew it. You blew it. you should have led. Just like the ordeal in Lapeer when I said, Mayor, we are now on Detroit's water. You tell Jeff Wright to kiss off. We're going to go 50-50. We're going to renegotiate, and you're going to like it. You blew it.
So it's hard to rein Tony in. But I just want to say that you made some valid points. Another thing is, 2 points I'd like to say. One thing is like the universities. They're supposed to they bring things in, but they also what they bring in, basically the money they bring in, is also from the same source. We're depending to get grants from the federal government. That's where they get the state and federal governments. That's where all they get. Basically, they're a nonprofit too. Okay.
Well, when you start giving things away for $1. Yeah. And they reinvent it, and it's all weird. No, you did that on the backs of the people.
Well, I've heard so much when I remember when the IMA was given over and they created AutoWorld, and then that was handed over to the university. Yeah, that angered a lot of people.
Since we lost Kettering, we need a new stadium. Thank you very much, Kettering. You're going to be a very good steward of Kettering, the Atwood Stadium, history of everything along with it. But we need a full-blown professional stadium because we have a full-blown athletic talent.
Not to mention the music side.
The amount of music and talent that there are so many industries that Flint needs to lead itself into. Another one of this plastic injection molding. If we were able to take and put the plastic injection molders right now to put the molds in to build our own water filters, I guarantee you we would have water filters safe coming off your zoo. It would be an industry that 3,000 people almost immediately. The rest of the country, which is inundated now with bad water and no water, would be certainly interested in purchasing our water filters, and we shall provide whatever motivation we can to the powers that be to shake this town and get us up and running.
Bruce, let me just touch something real quick. You mentioned Kettering. I want Kettering to know, the president and all of them down there, U of M, MSU, all of you. I want you to know, sure, we need you. You are a valuable asset. An asset that's taking assets and not being taxed for them. You're no different than a nonprofit or church or anybody else that's saying, oh, we're doing all this and doing all that. Look, here's my
more students from
here's my agenda for you. You got that thing for $1. Yes, you had the money to fix it up, Kettering. I'm talking to you. Great people, looking beautiful. You're throwing 7 layers of dirt over the most toxic area in Flint. One of them. Here's my challenge for you. When you fill that stadium and you charge that ungodly rate for that ungodly program, you give 20% of your profit back to the city of Flint. Back to the residents, back to the people that were given that, guaranteed that. I'm going to remind you now, I'm down here paying that by hand with a bunch of people with Operation Brush Up. We were joyous. I also had some events down there that I cotton candy and popcorn. We loved it. I've seen Deep Purple. I've seen bands. That place was packed. What is it? 22,000 people. You do that times $20 or $50 a ticket. You're going to take all that money and you're going to put it right back in your college, and you're going to build a bigger, taller, higher fence around your place. Kettering, I'm giving you this challenge, and you better follow suit. You make money off the people of the city of Flint and all of our assets. You better bring some of that back into us. Thank you very much.
Anyway, I'm going to try to wrap this up now because you guys, but you give me a lot to think about. I'm sure there are going to be people listening to this and watching it that are going to be gaining a lot. But no, you made some valid points. And Tony, where can people get hold of you? Through Facebook, obviously, right?
Yeah, you can get me on Facebook. We got a webpage going up. You guys are wondering where I've been. I'm working with a committee right now that we're going to be badass, folks, and we're going to come at you from the street level. I just want you to know that
we need the residents.
That's what I was just going to say. The most important thing to me are the residents, and don't think you don't have a voice. I know you're tired of everything that's going on. I know you feel beaten, defeated. We're coming for the residents. We're coming for the police. I'm coming from the gangbangers on up to Grandma Johnson. I want my people of the city of Flint dancing in the streets for real. Ain't no fake shit going on no more. We're coming home, people, and I'm bringing you with me.
Definitely. Anyway, we'll give you a chance to come back again anytime you want to. And people, like I said, get old Tony on Facebook. And
all the webpage. We have the webpage set up pretty soon. Probably within the next 5 days, I guess.
Well, follow him, subscribe, friend him on Facebook, send him a message that way, encouraging it. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. And like I said, I encourage all Mayoral candidates, if you see this or want your own time, please contact me at All Points TV. At our website, we have a contact form. You can send an email to me and just state who you are and contact information. Thank you guys again, and hope to see you back real soon.
Thanks, All Points.